There are people in this world who ask for very little. Not fortune, not fame, not the kind of glory that fills stadiums and echoes through history books. No, some people, the quiet ones, the real ones, they only ask for something simple. A hand to hold, a door to come home to, the sound of laughter in a kitchen that smells like something warm. Megan was one of those people. She was 23 when she first dared to believe that simple happiness was within her reach. 23 and full of a hope so ordinary, so quietly powerful that most people wouldn't even recognize it as courage. But it was. Oh, it was. She didn't want a castle, she wanted a home. She didn't want applause, she wanted someone to sit beside her on a Tuesday evening when the world felt heavy and say nothing at all, because nothing needed to be said. She wanted a husband, children, laughter on Sunday mornings, pancakes going golden on a skillet, the chaos of small hands and sticky faces, and bedtime stories read 3 times because they always asked for 3. Is that too much to want? The world will answer that question in ways she never expected. But we're not there yet. Let's begin where all great storms begin, in the middle of a perfectly ordinary afternoon. His name was Tyler, and if you had been standing there that day, watching from across the yard, you might have thought you were witnessing the beginning of something beautiful. He was attentive in the way that makes a woman feel seen. He was kind in the way that feels rare. He laughed easily, listened carefully, and somewhere in the crackling warmth of that afternoon, he looked at Megan, really looked, and the world seemed to tilt just slightly on its axis. They talked for hours. Time did that thing it does, slipped away without permission. He called the next day, and the day after that. 18 months passed like a season you don't want to end. He was there in the big moments and the small ones. He said, "I love you" first, unprompted, unrehearsed, standing in the middle of a grocery store aisle with a box of cereal in one hand, as if the words had simply outgrown the space inside him. Megan smiled. She believed him. She believed him the way good people believe good things, completely, quietly, with her whole chest. And why wouldn't she? He had given her every reason. But here is what nobody tells you about the life you're building. You can pour your whole heart into a foundation, stack your dreams brick by careful brick, and still not know what lives in the walls. You don't find out until the storm comes, and Megan's storm was coming. She just didn't know it yet. She was holding the test with both hands when she saw it. 2 lines. She sat on the edge of the bathtub and breathed. Just breathed. And somewhere beneath the shock, beneath the swirl of every emotion a person can feel in under 60 seconds, something else stirred. Something ancient and certain and entirely her own. A love she had never felt before. A love that had no name yet, but it was already there. There are moments in a person's life that divide time into before and after. You know them when they arrive. They arrive with weight, with silence, with the kind of stillness that doesn't feel like peace. It feels like the world holding its breath. Megan had prepared carefully for this moment. She had thought about the words, arranged them, softened them. She held them in her hands like something fragile, something that needed to be offered gently, with both palms open. Tyler came home like he always did, loosening his collar, dropping his things by the door. Ordinary, familiar, the version of a person you think you know. She told him gently. She watched his face, and in the space between one heartbeat and the next, something in him changed. He didn't shout. He didn't rage. He didn't break anything in the room, except the one thing she couldn't replace. He simply said, quiet as a door closing forever, "This changes everything. I can't handle it." 5 words, 6 if you count the contraction. And just like that, the grocery store, the barbecue, the 18 months of careful, deliberate love The way he said, "I love you" first, all of it reclassified, re-examined, held up to a different light. He left the next morning, not in anger, not in a dramatic scene of slammed doors and shouted accusations. No, he simply gathered his things with the efficiency of someone who had already made up their mind long before the conversation happened, and he walked out. For a long time, Megan didn't move. She sat in the apartment that was now suddenly, terribly hers alone. The air felt different, heavier, like it had forgotten how to circulate. She was 26 years old, she was pregnant, she was alone. This is the part of the story that other people want to rush past, the uncomfortable part, the part that makes us shift in our seats because we recognize something in it, the specific terror of being left with more than you asked to carry by someone who promised to stand beside you. But we don't rush past it, we stay.
Because this is exactly where Megan's real story begins. Not in the barbecue, not in the grocery store, not in the 18 months of careful love. Here, in this room, in this silence, with 2 lines on a test and a door that no longer opened from the outside. She called her grandmother. She didn't have to explain much. Some women of a certain generation have heard enough storms in their lifetime to recognize the sound of one in a voice. Her grandmother simply said, "Come home." 2 words, 5 letters, the kind of sentence that holds an entire universe inside it. And Megan went. She packed what she could carry. She left what she couldn't. She walked out of that apartment, that before place, that ghost space, and she did not look back. Not because she wasn't hurting, but because somewhere already something in her had decided she was going to be okay. She didn't know how yet, she just knew. She came screaming. Of course she did, because some people arrive in this world already knowing that they are here, already announcing it, already filling every corner of the room with the impossible, overwhelming fact of their existence. Ava. Ava. 5 letters, 2 syllables, a whole universe compressed into a sound. Megan held her daughter for the first time, and the world, the entire complicated, painful, beautiful, bewildering world, reorganized itself around that moment. She looked at this small, screaming creature, this tiny person who had no idea what was waiting for her, no idea that she had already been abandoned by one person and already fiercely claimed by another. No idea that the woman holding her had been broken open in the most devastating way imaginable and was standing here anyway, holding on. Megan made a promise, not out loud, not in words anyone else could hear, just between them, in that specific silence that exists between a mother and her newborn child, that ancient frequency no one else can tune into. I will never leave you. And if you think that's a simple promise, you've never had to keep it alone. Her grandmother's house became the whole world for a while. Small rooms, familiar smells, the creak of old floorboards that sounded like a language only the house knew. Her grandmother, this woman who had weathered decades of her own storms, moved through the rooms with quiet purpose, making space, making tea, making Megan feel like she had not failed at anything, but simply arrived somewhere new. There is a specific kind of grace that lives in grandmothers. It is not soft, it is not delicate, it is the grace of someone who has already faced the worst and decided to keep setting the table anyway, to keep cooking, to keep the porch light on. Her grandmother was a rock, not the decorative kind, the geological kind, the kind of rock that has survived 1,000,000 years of pressure and hasn't cracked yet. Megan went back to work. Retail, the kind of work the world doesn't applaud. The kind of work where you stand on your feet for 8 hours and smile at strangers and count every dollar like it has a purpose, because it does. Every dollar has a name. Diapers, formula, the copay she'll need in 3 weeks, the electric bill, the small carton of orange juice that is both practical and the tiniest luxury she allows herself. She saved every penny. Not dramatically, not heroically. She saved with the steady, exhausting discipline of someone who has done the math and knows there is no room for error. She saved the way single mothers have always saved, by refusing to let anything be wasted, by turning nothing into something, over and over, in ways that never make the news. The months moved forward. Ava grew, and Megan, exhausted, underpaid, sometimes sitting in the parking lot of the grocery store gathering herself before going in, Megan kept going. She kept going on the days when the loneliness was loud, kept going when the bills arrived before the paycheck, kept going on the nights when Ava cried for hours and there was no one to tap in, no one to pass the baby to, no one to say, "Your turn," because there was only ever one turn, and it was always hers. But here's the thing about those nights, those impossible, endless, airless nights. They passed. Every single one of them passed, and on the other side of each one, morning came. And with morning came Ava, looking up at her mother from the crib with those eyes, those enormous, trusting, world-believing eyes, as if Megan was the most extraordinary thing she had ever seen, which, to Ava, she was. Steel is not born soft, it is made, in fire, under pressure, over time. Megan was being made. Ava is 5 years old now. 5 years old, which is the age when children are absolutely certain about everything, when the world is still full of magic and monsters in equal measure, and the person who protects you from both is the most powerful being in any universe. Ava knows this for a fact. Her mother is a superhero. She draws pictures of them, Megan and Ava, side by side, rendered in the specific visual language of a 5-year-old. Round heads, stick arms, enormous smiles, sometimes wings, sometimes capes, always together, always holding hands.
The sky in these pictures is always the most aggressive shade of blue. The sun is always smiling. Megan keeps every single one, not in a drawer, not in a box under the bed, on the refrigerator, on the wall beside Ava's bed, arranged like a gallery, like a museum, like evidence of a life being lived fully and fiercely and on purpose. There are routines now, the kind of routines that begin as survival strategies and, quietly, without announcement, become the architecture of a life, the structure that holds everything up. Breakfast pancakes on weekend mornings, butter melting into golden circles, syrup poured by small hands that don't entirely understand quantity control, Ava announcing the color of the batter, Megan catching the handle before the pan tips, both of them laughing at something that doesn't need to be explained. Story time in the evenings, Ava selecting books with the seriousness of a literary critic, settling in against her mother's shoulder, her breathing slowing as the words unfold, until she is soft, heavy, and almost asleep, and Megan keeps reading anyway because she doesn't want the moment to end. Dancing in the living room, this is the one that matters most. They don't need a reason, they don't need a special occasion. Megan puts on a song, sometimes something with a beat, sometimes something with a melody that fills the whole chest, and they dance in the living room, in their socks, with complete and total abandon. Ava has moves that defy categorization. They are joyful and chaotic and entirely her own. She spins until she's dizzy, she dips, she insists that her mother dip too. Megan dips, she laughs. Real laughter, the kind that comes from somewhere deep and unguarded and honest. In those moments, there is no loneliness. There is no bill unpaid, no shift tomorrow, no absence to mourn. There is only this room, this music, this small, extraordinary child who chose her, as all children choose their parents, without language, without logic, with everything. At night, when Ava curls into the curve of her mother's body and says in that half-asleep voice that sounds like all the warmth in the world concentrated into 5 small words, "Mama, you're my favorite," Megan breathes it in. She holds it like something precious, irreplaceable, hers.
because she knows, in the way that only parents who have fought for every single day of their child's life can know, that this is not a small thing.
This is everything. She thinks about Tyler sometimes, not in the way she used to, not with the sting of betrayal, not with the raw, open wound of someone freshly left. It doesn't work that way anymore. The wound has closed. It's a scar now, smooth, permanent, part of the map of who she is. She heard he got married. Someone told her in that way that people tell you things, half warning, half test, watching your face. She let the information settle, waited for the hurt. It was there, briefly, a dull ache like weather in an old injury, and then it was gone. Because the life he refused to be part of, the life he called impossible, the life he walked away from without looking back, that life, it turned out, was magnificent. Not in the way he would have understood. In a quieter way, a truer way, in the way of pancakes and drawings on refrigerators and dancing in socks on a Tuesday night for no reason except that the music was playing and they were alive and together. Every morning, before the world demands anything of her, Megan has a ritual. It takes 6 seconds. She looks at herself, really looks, the way people rarely do, without flinching, without turning away, and she says 3 words. You got this. 3 words. Not a magic spell, not a cure for the hard parts, not a wall that keeps out loneliness or worry, or the specific wait of 2 a.m. when the bills are on the counter and the worry is loud. Just a choice. A daily, deliberate, brave little choice to begin again. She is 28 years old now, 29 in weeks. She has been a mother for 5 years, a single mother for all 5 of them. She has worked jobs that bruised her feet. She has stretched grocery money in ways that defy reasonable mathematics. She has sat in parking lots and company bathrooms and her grandmother's kitchen and cried because she is human and she is allowed, and crying is not the same as giving up. She has also danced in her living room more times than she can count. She has read approximately 800 bedtime stories, some of them 3 times in a single evening. She has made pancakes golden enough to make a 5-year-old gasp with satisfaction. She has held her daughter through nightmares and fevers and the specific devastation of a dropped ice cream cone, which at 5 feels like genuine tragedy and deserves to be treated accordingly. She has been, every single day, without exception, exactly what she promised that tiny, screaming person she would be. She has never left. The world doesn't hand out medals for this. There's no ceremony, no podium, no announcer listing the achievements of single mothers who held the whole world together with their bare hands while everyone else was looking elsewhere. No red carpet rolled out for the woman who got up at 5 a.m. to pack a lunch before a double shift. No standing ovation for the person who put someone else's breakfast on the table before she ate her own, before she remembered to eat her own. The world is largely silent on the subject, but we are not. Megan is not a tragedy. She was abandoned, yes. She was left holding something enormous by someone who should have stayed. She was afraid and alone and 26 years old with a future that looked nothing like the one she had imagined. But here is what that story became. A grandmother who opened her door and kept the light on. A daughter born screaming into a world that was already, against all reasonable expectation, ready to love her back. A kitchen that smells like pancakes on weekend mornings. A refrigerator covered in drawings of superheroes. A living room where the dancing never really stops. And a woman who is nobody's cautionary tale, who looks at herself in the mirror every single morning and chooses to begin. She will turn 29 soon. Ava will be 6 before long. She will lose a tooth. She will start asking bigger questions about the world. She will draw new pictures, maybe with more detail now, because children grow and their worlds expand, and the stick figures will have hands, and the hands will be holding things. The bills will not disappear. The nights that are quiet in the wrong way will still arrive, as they do for anyone who loves fiercely and is sometimes lonely for someone to share it with. The mornings will demand the same courage they always have, but Megan will be there. She'll be there for all of it, the hard and the holy, the exhausting and the exquisite, the ordinary Tuesday evenings that are somehow, impossibly, everything. A plate of pancakes, 2 glasses of orange juice, 1 small drawing left on the table, 2 figures, side by side, under the most aggressive blue sky imaginable. The sun is smiling. They are holding hands. Underneath, in the handwriting of a 5-year-old who has not yet learned to doubt herself, me and Mama. Somewhere in the house, a door opens, small feet on the floor, a voice, bright, certain, enormous with love. Mama, are you making pancakes? And Megan, who got this and always did, answers, yes, baby, I'm right here.